The following presentation is an overview of the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity by Dr. Milton J. Bennett, Professor of Intercultural Communications. The narration for this presentation comes either directly or indirectly from the Intercultural Development Research Institute with an article written by Milton J. Bennett entitled A Developmental Model of Intercultural Sensitivity. Denial of difference. People with this predominant experience are in denial about cultural difference. They are unable to experience differences in other than extremely simple ways. They may be perplexed when asked about their own culture because they have not considered how culture impacts their own or others' lives. At this stage, learners say, "Live and let live, that's what I say. All big cities are the same, lots of buildings, too many cars, McDonald's. As long as we all speak the same language, there's no problem. With my experience, I can be successful in any culture without any special effort. I never experience culture shock." Or, "All I need to know is politics and history. I can figure out the rest as I go along." All of these are what the learner would say in the denial stage. The second stage is defense against difference. People with a predominant experience of defense experience cultural difference in a polarized way, us and them. They feel under siege by people that they stereotype in simplistic and negative ways, protecting themselves with a hardened boundary between themselves and others. At this stage, learners say, "Why don't those people speak my language? When I go to other cultures, I realize how much better my own culture is. My culture should be a model for the rest of the world." Or, "These people don't value life the way we do. Boy, we could teach these people a lot of stuff. I am embarrassed by my compatriots, so I spend all my time with the host country nationals." Sometimes the defense is denigration. Sometimes it's superiority. Sometimes it's referred to as going native, the tendency to see another culture as superior while maligning one's own. The third stage on the Bennett scale is minimization of difference. The predominant experience of minimization is that of having arrived at intercultural sensitivity. The polarized experience of defense has given way to a recognition of the common humanity of all people regardless of culture. The familiar cultural worldview is protected by believing that deep down we're all alike, either physically and psychologically, or spiritually and philosophically. This assumption of similarity is then invoked to avoid recognizing one's own cultural patterns, understanding others, and eventually making necessary adaptations. At this stage, learners say things like, "The key to getting along in any culture is just to be yourself, authentic and honest. Customs differ, of course, but when you really get down to it, we're pretty much all alike. I have this intuitive sense of other people, no matter what their culture. While the context may be different, the basic need to communicate remains the same around the world." If people are really honest, they'll recognize that some values are universal. No matter what their culture, people are pretty much motivated by the same things. These are all comments that would be made by learners who are at the minimization of difference stage. According to Bennett, those who have moved into stage 4, the acceptance stage, have moved from ethnocentricity toward ethno-relativity. In acceptance of difference, when acceptance is the predominant experience, people experience cultural difference in context. They accept that all behaviors and values, including their own, exist in distinctive cultural contexts, and that patterns of behavior and values can be discerned within each context. They see cultures as offering alternative viable solutions to the organization of human experience, and they are curious about what the alternatives to their own culture are. Acceptance does not mean agreement or preference for alternative values, but rather acceptance of the reality of those different worldviews. At this stage, learners say things like, "The more experience, the better. It's boring if everyone is the same. People in other cultures are different in ways I hadn't thought of before. I always try to study about a new culture before I go there. The more cultures you know about, the better comparisons you can make." When studying abroad, every student needs to be aware of relevant cultural differences. Sometimes it's confusing knowing what values are different in various cultures and wanting to be respectful, but still wanting to maintain my own core values. This is the person who has moved from the minimization stage to the acceptance of difference stage. Stage 5 is adaptation to difference. The experience of adaptation is one of consciously shifting perspective and intentionally altering behavior. Adaptation is the application of acceptance, and it is likely to become the predominant experience when there is a need to actually interact effectively with people of another culture. With the acceptance of another culture's organization of reality, adaptation can proceed by allowing one to reorganize experience in a way more like that of the other culture. This is intercultural empathy. The ability to empathize with another worldview, in turn, allows modified behavior to flow naturally from that experience. It is this natural flow of behavior that keeps code shifting from becoming fake or inauthentic. At this stage, learners say, to solve this dispute, I'm going to have to change my approach. I know they're really trying hard to adapt to my style, so it's only fair that I should try to meet them halfway. I greet people from my culture and people from the host culture somewhat differently to account for cultural differences in the way respect is communicated. I can maintain my values and also behave in culturally appropriate ways. The more I understand this culture, the better I get at the language. These are the statements of the learner in the adaptation of difference stage. The final stage, and most difficult to reach, is the integration of difference stage. This is sometimes reached by military personnel who spend a good deal of time overseas, those who serve in the diplomatic corps, missionaries, and particularly missionary kids, and those who are involved in international business. Sometimes third culture kids, those who grow up in 2 or 3 or more cultures, are those who are able to reach the integration stage in ways that others simply will never reach. The experience of integration is of being a person who is not defined in terms of any one culture, typically a person who is bicultural or multicultural. The experience of integration may occur when individuals intentionally make a significant sustained effort to become fully competent in new cultures. It may characterize persons who grew up or lived for extended periods of time in other cultures. A marginal cultural identity allows for lively participation in a variety of cultures, but also for an occasional sense of never really feeling at home. People with this orientation experience themselves as in process, and they generally have a wide repertoire of cultural perspectives and behavior to draw on. Learners in this stage will say, while sometimes I feel marginal in groups, I'm able to move in and out of them with relative ease. Everywhere is home if you know enough about how things work there. I feel most comfortable when I'm bridging differences between the cultures I know. Whatever the situation, I can usually look at it from a variety of cultural points of view. In an intercultural world, everyone needs to have an intercultural mindset. I truly enjoy participating fully in both of my cultures. These are the comments of the person who has reached the integration stage.